What is up, everybody? Welcome in to a brand new season of Spencer Talks NASCAR 2025. How's it going, everybody? Spencer Card here, bringing y'all another year of this NASCAR talk. Appreciate everyone that rocked with us last year and our first year launching the show. We're back for year two. Let's get it on. 2025 NASCAR Series about to get underway. So we're going to preview all 36 drivers that have charters with chartered teams. So let's get to it. We're going to go 36 through 1 in order of how I see the drivers finishing this year in points. All just rough estimates done by yours truly. Take this for what you will. All fan analysis courtesy of me. But, I watch the sport. I've been following it since 06. So, I feel like I have a right to an opinion. So if y'all watching this, strap in. It's going to be fun. Got graphics made for all the drivers and their new fire suits, new schemes, and all that. So yeah, let's start off with number 36, who I think will finish 36th, and that is Mr. Cody Ware, who's back. Well, actually not back. This is his first full-time season with his daddy's team there, Rick Ware Racing. They sold their second charter or leased it actually to RFK Racing. Ryan Preece taking over a third RFK car, so that's why Rick Ware is down to one car and going with Cody as the full-time driver. I don't see this going too well for him, although he had a top 5 last year. So, it showed a little bit of speed toward the end of last season. Nothing that makes me think they're going to be any sort of contender, but, it might not be a total laughing stock. So, this is a very stacked cup field as you're about to see. No real weak links here, but yeah, Cody Ware, somebody's got to finish last, and seems to me he's probably going to be the last of the 36, but you never know. Maybe he'll surprise some people. Next up is Ty Dillon, driving for Colleague Racing. He's a new face over there, taking over for Daniel Hemrick, a renumbered car there. It was number 31, now number 10. And Ty hoping for better fortunes this year. Last year was a rough year for him. Was a truck series driver for most of the year, made 17 starts there. Didn't do too well over there, though, only 2 top 10s. And so, yeah, he's got a lot to prove. He was with Spire a couple years ago, got let go in favor of the young Carson Hocevar. That proved to be the right decision for Spire. But, yeah, he's got a second chance or third chance. I don't know what chance he's on. He's had a lot of chances in the Cup Series. So I doubt this tenure will go a whole lot better for him. This doesn't seem like Ty Dillon's got quite enough to compete with the Cup Series best, but Colleague's all right. They've had some flashes there, especially with AJ Allmendinger, but I don't expect a whole lot from Ty Dillon this year. Next up is Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in the rebranded team there. Hayek Motorsports was JTD Doherty Racing. Lost their main sponsor in Kroger, though, to RFK. So they're going to be starting over there. Sonny D expected to sponsor them for a few races, but other than them, kind of uncertain as far as what's going to happen, which is why I have Ricky ranked pretty low here, projected 34th in points. Normally does a little better than that. Finished 25th last year and had a win, but when you lose your best sponsor and majority owners, it's going to be kind of a tough transition, I would think, for Hayek. But, Ricky's fairly talented, especially at the restrictor plate races, so he might be able to score a few top 10s there at those tracks. But I think other than that, he's probably going to have a rough year with a new rebranded team there. So kind of a tough break for Ricky, but, we'll see what he can do. Next up, Hunter Nemechek. I meant to put 33 there. My fault. It just goes to show how stacked this Cup Series field is. Had a couple typos here on this one, y'all. My bad. He actually finished 34th in points last season. Did have 4 top 10s, but I don't see a whole lot of improvement this year as far as his point standing. Got him finishing actually 33rd because there was also another typo there. I just feel like it's just a testament to the how talented the Cup Series field is. I think he'll improve a little bit this year. Legacy as a whole should be a little bit better, but don't see who they're going to leapfrog with this field being so loaded this year. So, not really a knock on him. I think the kid's got some talent, but just a team that's in kind of a rebuilding phase or just a building phase with a new ownership there led by Jimmy Johnson. All right, next up, Austin Dillon, the other Dillon brother. Don't have him faring a whole lot better Then his younger brother Ty having finished in 32nd there, where he finished last year. A rough year for RCR, really rough year. I mean, as a Kyle Busch fan, I'm well aware of how much of a struggle it was for RCR, but he did steal that win at Richmond. It didn't count for the playoffs, but he had speed there. Kyle Busch had some speed there, some down the stretch. So this team, these teams have shown flashes, but Austin Dillon has really struggled as a whole the past few years. So don't see this year being a whole lot better for him. Just don't see who he's going to leapfrog. As we see, this grid is just so loaded. And yeah, I just didn't see enough from him to make me think this is going to stick. As far as when he had that win, it was just kind of a flash in the pan. A lot of people think they may have stole information. They may have been that mystery team that allegedly stole info from Gibbs. Maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I don't see a whole lot of good for Austin Dillon this year. Cole Custer returns to the Cup Series with Haas Factory Team, y'all. Cole Custer, dang, another typo there. My bad, y'all. He finished, I believe, like second in Xfinity points last year. He had a really nice year. The wins, top 5s, top 10. That's all correct in 33 starts there. He'll be returning to Cup Series this year. Had a couple really good Xfinity seasons, including the championship. But, don't see him doing super well with a retooled Haas Factory team there. It's going to be kind of some rough patches there if I had to guess. I got him finishing 31st in his return to the Cup Series, but not necessarily a knock on Cole Custer. I think he was very worthy to get a second chance in the Cup Series, and I think he'll have a few years to prove himself, but I think his first year back might be a little shaky. Riley Herbst making his full-time Cup Series debut with 23-11 racing. He had a solid Xfinity Series season, 2 wins, a 15 top 10, 7th in the points. Don't see him doing that well this year, though, in Cup. Got him finishing 30th overall. I mean, 23-11's got a lot of speed, but I don't see this third car hitting the ground running as far as speed. I think it's going to take him a little while. And as we saw last year with Spire, the third team, the expansion team, took a long time to get up to speed there with Zane Smith. So, yeah, I just think it's going to be a bit of a struggle for Herbst, but I think they'll eventually get something going there. I think they'll probably catch about 5, 6 top 10s, but don't see any wins or top 5s coming this year. Next up is Zane Smith. Got Zane projected finish 29th in the points. He got a little something going last year as a rookie with Spire. Ended up with a couple top 5s, 4 top 10s, 30th in points. They started off horrible, but he got something going there in the second half. I think he had a second place finish at one point. So, and it was, maybe a little luck if I remember right, but it wasn't a total fluke. So, he'll be a new car this year, though, Front Row Motorsports. Third car again, he'll probably be like the expansion team type thing. So similar both to last year. Probably not going to hit the ground running as far as speed, but I think they'll build this thing up and hopefully he can keep enough sponsors. Look like he's got a good bit of sponsors there on his fire suit there with a Speedy Cash, a few other ones, but I don't know how sustainable those will be. But for Zane's sake, hopefully he can stick around in this ride for a few years, maybe long-term. Maybe this is his long-term future with Front Row, assuming they keep trending up. So, but yeah, Zane Smith, I think he'll have an okay second season in Cup, but nothing earth-shattering. He's just still trying to get his feet wet as a Cup Series driver. Like Erik Jones, at this point in his career, would love to be well beyond this tier. I mean, he wants to be a championship contender at some point. But with legacy, they're playing the long game. They're playing the long game here. Jimmy Johnson, I think they're invested for the long haul. And the hope is that once they get their footing under them, that they'll be a contending team, I'd say, in the next 4 or 5 years. But for now, they're still near the bottom of the grid. But Jones is a very talented driver. I think he'll keep them in the mix to get a few top 10s. Should improve upon only 2 top 10s from last year. Point standing, though, don't see that improving a whole lot with teams like 23-11 and Trackhouse expanding. So 28's, I think, about realistic. But if he can sneak a win, playoffs are possible, but pretty unlikely, I'd say. I say Erik Jones, don't expect a whole lot, but maybe he'll surprise me. Carson Hocevar here, I'm kind of sleeping on. I feel like I had to kind of make somebody be lower than, because I feel like all these guys have a shot at the chase for real, or the playoffs. You want to say the chase used to 2010s in NASCAR, but yeah, I mean, I just feel like a sophomore slump could be in the cards here. Hocevar is still very young. Plus, they're now they got Michael McDowell in the fold and Justin Haley. They're gonna want those guys to run well. I'm not saying that they're gonna take resources away from Hocevar, but I don't know. I think it's gonna be really close between a lot of drivers, and I feel like Hocevar might be a little more prone to DNF. So he's younger, and so it's not really a knock on him. It's just more of a testament. I keep saying it. It's more of a testament to how loaded the field is. I felt bad putting him this low. I might eat my prediction here because, he could easily improve upon this. He's probably, I feel like, a hot pick to sneak into the playoffs, but a little higher on Justin Haley. I just really like that Haley got Rodney Childers as his crew chief. I think Rodney Childers is a difference maker at crew chief. Not really a crew chief expert, but I think Luke Lambert, I believe, was Hocevar's crew chief last year. He did a good job. Not knocking him, but just not quite sure how well he'll do in his second season, but maybe he'll prove me wrong and do a lot better than his projection of 27th. Next up, we got the Dinger, y'all. AJ Allmendinger had a solid Xfinity Series season last year. Went back there, but his ping pong Cup career is continuing. He's now back in the Cup Series. Was full-time, then dropped down, now back up. So hopefully he can stick around for a few years at least. He's getting a little long in the tooth, but, still a talented driver. Very good at road courses. Always a threat to win there. And, holds his own in the ovals. So, he'll definitely be Colleague's banner driver. He's their best shot at getting wins this year. They're not one of the hot teams in the series, but you never know. Maybe the Dinger can put together a banner year for them and get them in the playoffs. But I think with the way the rest of the field is, I just have a hard time seeing him beating out some of these other guys. So Noah Gragson, got Noah Gragson 25th. He'll be at a new home this year. Front Row Motorsports in the renumbered number 4 car. One of the old Stewart-Haas numbers heading over to Front Row. I have Drew Blickensderfer heading over there, crew chief. Had a decent year last year with Stewart-Haas. Had 7 top 10s, finished 24th in the points. New team this year, could have some growing pains. Got him right around about the same as he was last year there. Got finishing 25th, Could win a plate race. You never know. I think it's going to take a little while for them to really get their footing under them. So, yeah. Next up, we've got Ryan Preece, another driver, former Stewart-Haas driver in a new home. At RFK Racing, an expansion team there, but I think this team's got a lot of potential. 2 teammates had really good years in Chris Buescher and Brad Keselowski. Buescher is a little disappointing to miss the playoffs, but probably should have made it. He ended up getting a win in the playoffs. Keselowski broke his winless streak. They're one of those teams that's in that second tier. Kind of like 23-11 and Trackhouse. Those teams that are like trending up, kind of knocking at the door of Gibbs, Hendrick, and Penske. So I don't think Preece is going to do as well as his 2 teammates, being that he's an expansion team. But I've got the Kroger backing now, brings a Kroger sponsorship, and he's trying to prove that he's more than just a 1-year rental. They're leasing the charter, but if he does well enough and the sponsorship stays, maybe they'll outright buy that second charter from Rick Ware. So it was a big year for Ryan Preece. Has a lot to prove. I think he'll do pretty well. And now another former Stewart-Haas driver in Josh Berry. Got him projected 23rd in his new home with the Wood brothers. He was okay last year in his first year at Stewart-Haas. A shame that they didn't get to keep that going, and then Rodney Childers gone to Spire. But, got 4 top 10s, 2 top 5s. He had flashes of upside, just wasn't real consistent. The team was in limbo all year and ended up folding. But I think he's got a chance to build something pretty nice here at Wood Brothers. Harrison Burton didn't pan out over there, but I think Josh Berry has a shot to get this team back relevant again. I think they could be relevant, kind of like they were with Ryan Blaney. Not quite a championship contender, but, it's a team that could contend for a win or two. So, Josh Berry, not sure quite how fast he'll be in his first year there, but definitely he's got potential to get a good bit of top 10s. All right, Michael McDowell, another driver in a new home, veteran, longtime Front Row Motorsports driver, landed with Spire in their 71 car. This is the 3rd car that Zane Smith drove last year, but think McDowell will do better than the rookie Smith did last year. So I got him finishing 22nd. I think a lot of people are high on him, thinking he'll make the playoffs, but I don't know. I just don't think he's quite strong enough at the non-plate races and road courses. He's really good at those, but the rest of the tracks, he's competitive. I mean, 7 top 10s last year was solid, but he only finished 23rd in points. I don't know. I just don't quite see it with Michael McDowell. He's very good. He's very solid, but as far as being that playoff driver, I just don't think he's quite going to do it. But you never know. Spire's a trending up team. So next up, Daniel Suarez. Got Suarez projected to finish 21st. Got him coming back to earth. He had a good year last year. Won that race at Atlanta early in the 3-wide finish. Heartbreak from Kyle Busch. And, 21st, though. I think he's going to come down this year. A lot of pressure, I'd say, Suarez is under, being at Trackhouse is one of the top young drivers in the sport under contract there. And Connor Zilic is a prospect. He's going to make his Cup debut at Coda. So I think the hot seat pressure is going to really be on Suarez this year. I think he's only re-signed for a year. So if he underperforms, he might get the boot. He might outperform my projection, but if he doesn't, he might be on his way out. But he'll probably be able to find a ride somewhere else. But Trackhouse is a good seat. It's just a shame how sometimes, kind of like Alex Bowman. It's not that Suarez is a bad driver, but when you drive for a good team like this, it's like you got to be on your A game. And he hadn't shown me quite enough to make me think that he's a long-term solution over here. But this is his chance to prove me wrong. I always say, prove me wrong, y'all. But I'm just a talking head. But Todd Gilliland, Pickle Todd up next. He moving to the 34 car, bringing Grillo's Pickles over with him as an associate sponsor. But his main sponsor this year will be Love's, going to take over the seat that Michael McDowell's occupied the past few years. And I think he'll do pretty well with it. That's front row's staple car there, the 34. I think he'll probably have the most consistent speed out of their 3 drivers. So I got him doing pretty well this year. 20th in points. He actually outdid McDowell last year slightly, finished 22nd, had a very kind of under the radar good season, 4 top 10s. Had a lot of speed at the plate tracks. Didn't get the results he deserved at those, but he's pretty good. Didn't get any top 5s, but I think he'll fetch him a top 5 or 2 this year. Maybe even a win at a plate track and sneak into the playoffs. So keep an eye on Pickle Todd, y'all. He's trending up. Justin Haley up next. I think Haley's going to have a nice season. I'm higher on Haley than the consensus. I feel like most people think Carson Hocevar is going to be Spire's flagship driver this year, but I'm going to go with Haley, man. I'm a believer in Rodney Childers. I think he's going to get this 7 team really nice, and it's going to prove that Spire made the right call by moving on from Corey LaJoy. Although if they'd have kept LaJoy with Childers, maybe LaJoy would do better, but I think it's a tough business, man, and LaJoy just wasn't really getting the results. And Haley, someone that was making waves with Rick Ware equipment, he was kind of, putting those Rick Ware cars in spots they had never been before. So he made enough of an impression on Spire to boot LaJoy out early and let Haley take over. And I think he's going to have a very nice season. I don't think he's going to quite make the playoffs, but 19th, it's only a few spots off. So I think in a year or two, his 7 car is going to be a real contender. And I think Haley's going to be the face of that. I think he's going to be the face of Spire. You heard it here first, or maybe not, but you heard it here. Austin Cindric got finished in 18th. I think he's going to probably be a little disappointing this year at Penske. He kind of stole the win last year at, I believe that was Gateway. He was with Ryan Blaney, I think, had it won, and he had a tire or something go down, or ran out of fuel, some fluky thing, and that allowed Cindric to win. And Cindric kind of took advantage of it. Ended up making around the 12 there, finished 11th in points, but only 7 top 10s. That ain't good. 4 top 5s, so that's pretty good. And I see him coming back to earth this year, though, finishing 18th in the points. Maybe he'll get a plate win. He's very good at the drafting tracks. I'll give him that. And he's solid on road courses, but just lacks the speed at the tracks that matter, I feel like. And until they get that solved, I don't know if Cindric's going to ever be a real championship contender. Well, he won't be until they get that solved, I can tell you that. So maybe this will be the year they finally hit their stride, but if not, there could be rumors of him being potentially on his way out over there because Penske's at a top tier organization. They expect results, and and also Tim Cindric, I believe, no longer the president of Team Penske. They kind of did some reshuffling there in the organization. I think he's still involved though, so I'm sure Austin Cindric's going to have a long leash, being that he's kind of a nepo situation there. But I don't think it's going to be too much longer for him if he doesn't improve this year. So it's a big year for Austin Cindric. It's got to show improvement, but I'm just not very confident that he'll be able to. All right, our last driver before we get to our projected playoff drivers, Bubba Wallace, y'all. Good old Bubba. Bubba, man. What are we going to do with Bubba? I just feel like he's stuck. He's kind of stuck in like NASCAR purgatory. Like, I think he's solid, but he's just not that great. 14 top 10, that's pretty good. That's not bad at all, but just, only 6 top 5s and the no wins. That's the thing that's hurting him. But he was knocking on the door to playoffs last year, and I think he'll do the same this year. I don't know, 2311 being part of NASCAR lawsuit, like, feel like their performance might suffer a little bit, but I still think Bubba will be right there. So don't even quite making the playoffs, but I think he'll be pretty good. New crew chief there, so I'm not sure how that'll go, but I wouldn't think it'd be terrible for him. But he is kind of a hot-tempered personality, so hopefully it's a good fit. But yeah, I just don't see Bubba quite taking that next step because, as we see it, there's only 16 that can make it, and all the 16 that made it are pretty good. My nice number 16 is kind of a surprising pick, I'd say, but everybody else is drivers, I believe, that have won cup races before, other than Ty Gibbs hadn't, but he came close. But all right, here are my projected playoff drivers, 16-1. Let's get it. All right, at number 16, we've got the K-Way SVG. Shane Van Gisbergen. I think he's going to sneak in. I think he wins a road course or a street course this year. I really do. I've got the Rook winning a race and making the playoffs. He already has a cup win in the name, one in his very first start at Chicago, and his parlayed that in now a full-time NASCAR Cup ride. So, and with Trackhouse, a team he won the race with Project 91, which is back this year with Elio at the Daytona 500, and could be back for some other races, maybe with some F1 guys or just other. Daniel Ricciardo comes to mind as a Project 91 candidate. So yeah, they nice to see Trackhouse thriving with that. But yeah, and also really nice to see SVG promoted to the 3rd full-time car there at Trackhouse. So they're a fun team to root for, and this isn't just a bias here. I think he's genuinely got what it takes to make the playoffs. Just need a win. It's winning you're in, and I think he's so good at these road and street courses that he's going to win one of them at least. So I'm going to say SVG makes it, but don't see him, doing a whole lot in the playoffs being that. I think just the Charlotte Roval is the only road or street course in there. So anyway, Kyle Busch got my man KB back in the playoffs, but don't see this being the revenge tour that he's hoping it'll be. Maybe he'll do better than I'm thinking. I definitely think he'll be better than last year. It was kind of a disaster there. Only 10 top 10s, finished 20th in points. Worst year of his career since his rookie year, and the biggest glaring weakness there, no wins. Got a few runner-up finishes, though, so he came close. Almost made the playoffs, finished runner-up 2 weeks in a row at Daytona and Darlington. That Darlington run he had was really impressive. Shout out to Chase Briscoe for holding him off. That was a hell of a race there. They were both really battling for that last playoff spot. But I think KB cracks the code this year to get in the playoffs. I think he wins at least one race this year. Might win 2 or 3. You never know. But I just am not confident enough in RCR to project him to finish any higher than like 15th. I just don't see him getting out at around the 16. I just don't think RCR's got the equipment to get him to a championship level. So I think this might be his last year over there. Not sure though with sponsorship, though he might be kind of stuck, but I would think someone will be able to put together sponsorship for him to get a better opportunity. Or maybe this is it. Maybe this is just Kyle's last season. Maybe This will be his retirement tour, but I just hope he can get at least one more win before he would decide to hang it up. But I think he will. I think he'll make the playoffs this year and show that he's still got it. Alex Bowman, y'all, he had a pretty good, sneaky good year last year. He wasn't really a championship contender, but he wasn't that far off from it. He was definitely in that second tier for sure, and at times kind of showed flashes that maybe he could be a championship contender, but just didn't seem to quite have the speed consistently, the race-winning speed that is to be a true championship contender. Did get the win last year. Chicago street course basically saved his ride. Seemed like Hendrick was thinking about maybe making a big change over there. They've had the same driver lineup now for a good minute. So, yeah, and Bowman damn near made it around the 8. I believe he had a big penalty that knocked him out of that. That was kind of controversial, but yeah, I mean, he overall was good last year. So I see him taking a little step back this year. But, overall, I think he's still in position to keep this seat for at least another year or two as backing of Ally. But if he does kind of take a step back this year, then 2026 will be a huge year for him. Because then I think, if he misses the round of 12, like I'm thinking, then Hendrick's definitely going to, I think, put pressure on him. Be like, look, man, you got to step it up a little bit because I got all his teammates finishing significantly higher in points, but we'll see how it goes. Brad Keselowski up next year. Got him projected 13th. That's where he finished last year. He finally broke his winless streak. But yeah, I don't see a whole lot changing here. I think Keselowski will be a contender for wins once again. I don't think he's got quite enough to be a true championship contender, but you never know. I mean, this RFK team's really trending up. I got his teammate Chris Buescher having a nice season this year. We'll have a preview on him in a little bit. But yeah, I think Brad will do okay. I just think that he's just getting a little long in the tooth there. And, I'm not saying he's washed, but I just don't think he's quite at the top of his game. But you never know. Maybe he'll prove me wrong. But I feel like he's a little too mistake prone, especially at plate tracks. And I feel like the past few years at plate tracks, he's caused a lot of wrecks. So we'll see. But I'm not quite as bullish on Keselowski as some, but he did pretty well last year, so maybe he'll outdo my projection. Todd Gibbs up next. Todd Gibbs, he started off hot last year. He really did, and I thought he was for sure going to get his first Cup win, and it's kind of flamed out. Didn't have a good stretch run, and ended up missing the round of 12. Ended up 15th. I think he'll make the round of 12 this year, though. I think he'll take another step. I think he'll get his first win this year, and he'll have a good stretch. But yeah, just hadn't shown the consistency yet. Just hadn't shown me that he's quite a championship contender just yet. He's definitely a playoff contender. I think he'll make the playoffs again, second straight year, and I think he'll get a win. I don't think he'll have to worry about points as much this year. So I think he'll take that next step. But he's still very young, so I don't think I think it's going to be another 2-3 years before he's really like one of those elite contenders like a Christopher Bell, or even like his teammate Denny Hamlin. Like, he's still, he's not quite at the elite level yet, but he's in the Gibbs equipment. So I think he'll take advantage of that and have a pretty solid year. Our defending champion, Joey Logano, now a 3-time champion. God, it makes me sick to my stomach to think about that, as I am currently battling an illness. Was still trying to get this season preview out for y'all. But yeah, just 3-time champion. It's just hard for me to believe after the year he had last year. Just wasn't very good, although he got really hot at the end, man. 4 wins ended up with, and I mean, he took advantage of that the format. It's just like rewards who's hot at the end, and he's able to sneak through to the end and then ended up winning the championship. So I mean, it's one of those, as I say, don't hate the player, hate the game. Although in this case, I do hate the player. I'm not a Joey Logano fan. I believe he's not by far the most hated Cup Series driver. I saw a poll about that the other day. I was like, man, I never thought I'd see the day where Kyle Busch wasn't even listed among the most hated. I mean, it had like Keselowski, Ty Gibbs on there, and then, of course, a bunch of Logano. But, yeah, I mean, he's not a very likable winner. He's very I don't know. But anyway, enough about him personally. As far as his performance, I think he's I don't think he's going to totally fall off a cliff. I think he'll still do well enough to make the playoffs again, probably win a race or two, but seems like unless it's an even year, he's not really a championship contender, and it's not an even year. So I see him coming back to earth this year. Denny Hamlin up next. Denny. Man, he's another one that I don't know. I don't say he's among the most hated, although yeah, I'd say he is. But the good thing with Denny Hamlin, I feel like, is at least he is someone that is trying to fight for what he feels is right. Is definitely with this lawsuit and stuff, and has a backing of Michael Jordan, at 23XI. Like they're a team that a lot of people like to root for. So yeah, I think Denny Hamlin, and all this distraction and stuff could take away from his performance a little bit, but I still think he'll be a contender. I still think he'll win a couple races and could maybe do better, but than what I'm thinking. But yeah, I got him finishing 10th. I don't think this is his year to win the championship. I hate to say it, but I think the window is closed. I don't see him winning a championship in his career, but he's still in Gibbs equipment though, so he could prove me wrong. But another issue with him is his sponsorship situation. I mean, Sport Clips, when I did these graphics, was really his only confirmed sponsor. I believe now he's got a few more lined up. I think National Debt Relief sponsoring him for Daytona, and he's got a few others lined up, but still didn't really replace FedEx. Kind of reminds me of the Kyle Busch situation, but then he seems a little more patient than KB as far as he's, it seems he's been with Gibbs his whole career. He's been working with him to try to stay in this seat. He could just theoretically go drive for himself with 23XI, but that would come at the expense of, I guess, Riley Herbst. And Riley Herbst is a self-funded driver, so, he's got the Monster Energy backing. So that would definitely come out of Denny's pocket. And, he's already trying to, stay afloat as it is doing with this lawsuit. They lose that lawsuit, that could cost him a lot of money, but looking pretty good for the teams. It's the latest I've heard. Hamlin, his season, though, big year for him. He needs to hope he does better than my projection because his windows, the time's ticking, as far as him being able to win a championship. But he just didn't really do that well down the stretch last year. Didn't really impress me all that much. So maybe he'll prove me wrong, but I'm thinking he'll not do quite as well as he's hoping. Ross Chastain up next. I got him finishing 9th. Will be a nice step forward for him. Had a disappointing year. Missed the playoffs. Did get a win in the playoffs though, so did have a nice stretch run. He's someone that I think is gonna bounce back this year. I think he wins 2, 3, maybe even up to 4 races. I think he's gonna be back to being Trackhouse's lead guy. I think SVG going there helps the team as a whole, and yeah, I think Chastain's gonna really be on his A game and take that next step. I don't know if he'll quite make championship 4 again. That was the skin of his teeth as of do what is now an illegal move at the wall ride. But yeah, I think he'll definitely improve though, and I see him taking a big leap forward in the points there and winning multiple races. So yeah, so this is now we're in the championship contending tier now here, y'all. If you're in this tier, I'd say all these guys have a shot to win the championship. And this is kind of a bold take, I'd say, but Chase Briscoe, y'all, I think Chase Briscoe is going to be a serious contender this year. I think JGR knocked it out of the park with this decision. He's the only driver in a new seat that I have in this tier. And, I mean, he got by far the best deal of any of the free agent drivers as far as being able to step into a ready-made seat with a ready-made team, ready-made sponsor. I mean, Bass Pro Shops, fortunate that for him that they stuck around, and I think he'll represent him well. I think Chase Briscoe is a good driver for Bass Pro, and I think he's gonna have a nice year. He showed some flashes with Stewart-Haas. Obviously, it was kind of turbulent there last year, but he got the win and at Darlington to make the playoffs, and showed some flashes to where I think now that he's in really good equipment with a stable team, I think the results are going to come, and I think he's going to have a big year. I think he's going to win a few races and show that they're probably glad that Martin Truex retired. I mean, Truex wasn't bad the past couple of years, but not quite at the level that JGR was hoping. And yeah, I think they're glad he stepped away. I mean, he was getting long in the tooth, and then James Small, crew chief there, I'm sure is glad Truex stepped away. They had their share of fights. They're like an old married couple bickering back and forth. But Chase Briscoe, a new driver, he's going to, I'm sure, be easier to work with and stuff. So, yeah, I see him having a very nice first year with JGR. Might even make the championship 4, but I have him finishing 8th because we've got a lot of other top drivers to get to here. Next one I'd like to discuss is those guys about 7th, Chris Buescher. Dale Jr. says, Christopher Buescher. Got him projected 7th. Made the round of 8 a couple of years ago. Took a step back last year and missed the playoffs completely, but he was the highest finishing non-playoff driver there, finishing 17th, and won a race last year in the playoffs. So had a nice stretch run there. So, yeah, I think Chris Buescher will definitely do better this year. Kind of came back to earth after his big breakthrough in 2023, where he won multiple races. I think this year will be more similar to 23. And I think he'll be a little more consistent. That year, he was kind of a flash in the pan there in the summer and then just couldn't quite find that speed again. I think he'll be able to have more consistent speed this year, which is why I think he could be a dark horse championship contender. He has paid his dues. He's been with this team a while, and they've built this thing up to being a contending team. I like to see things like this. This organic growth, you just keep chipping away and results can happen. And it's one of those deals to where they just seem to keep getting better. And, even though they kind of took a step back last year, they were still able to salvage their season and get a win. And Chris Buescher is a guy that is very solid behind the wheels, has a solid attitude. He's a good guy. He doesn't get rattled. He's he's a big dude. You don't want to mess with him. He's a nice guy, but you don't want to push him, and he'll he's one of the bigger guys in the garage. So don't mess with Texas. I believe he's a Texas guy, but yeah, Chris Buescher. I think he'll have a nice year this year. And then next up, William Byron. Got Willie B finishing 6th. That got him taking a little step back this year. I feel like he got kind of fortunate to make the championship 4 last year with the whole Christopher Bell controversy and the race manipulation stuff. Just whole big mess last year. Byron it shouldn't have come down to that. He should have just flat out ran better at Martinsville. But last couple of years has been kind of the same story with them, where they have a good stretch, start off the year hot, and then they don't really close out that well. They've been kind of struggling there as far as closing the deal. 2 years in a row, kind of disappointing endings, despite making the championship 4 both times. So I think I think fate's going to kind of catch up to them this year. I think they're going to kind of come back to earth. And him and Rudy Fugle, great driver, crew chief combination, but I just don't see Willie B being quite as strong this year. Got him finishing 6th, but still think he'll win multiple races and be a contender. Could easily prove me wrong and win the championship, but I just don't think he's going to be quite as strong as his 2 teammates and the ones above him here. So, all right, our last non-championship 4 projected driver, Tyler Reddick. He was a championship 4 driver last year, but they got him taking a little step back, finishing 5th here. Like I said earlier, 23-11. Caught up in the NASCAR lawsuit there, suing NASCAR. I got what's the unbannable car? Yeah, the unbannable car as the car above me there. It's I don't know if they were trying to take us into message in NASCAR with that, but if they were, it's kind of funny. I was like, I'll put that on the graphic. Shout out to MJ there. But yeah, I think Reddick will still be good though. He was the regular season champion last year, so I still think he'll be among the contenders for sure, but I think they might not quite have as much speed this year, just even if it wasn't for the lawsuit. It's hard to replicate having the kind of speed they had last year, 2 years in a row. So they're still a relatively young team, so I don't think they'll be quite as good, but I still think they'll be very strong. So Tyler Reddick, definitely going to still be in the mix, I feel like. Chase Elliott. I see Chase Elliott improving upon the 1 win from last year. He definitely showed that he was back after a nightmarish 2023 season, in which he got injured early in the season in a skiing accident and then missed multiple races. Just could never find his footing that season and didn't win a race, missed the playoffs. It was a nightmare for him, but last year, I showed he was back, got a monkey off his back as far as he finally won a race. And I thought he was going to win multiple, but he wasn't quite as fast as his teammates William Byron and Kyle Larson. But he showed me enough to make me think he'll be back close to the championship 4 this year. I got him climbing into the championship 4 there, projected 4th. But he's really good at Phoenix. He might win the championship. You never know. He won it in 2020. I got 3 of the 4 guys that are past champions here, but I'm sure y'all can figure out who my championship projected winner will be with my hint as far as my projected champion is not a past champion. Anyway, I see Chase getting back to being among the championship 4 contenders. All right, so Ryan Blaney making his 3rd straight championship 4. And a lot of y'all probably thinking, well, why aren't you projecting Blaney to win the championship? He's the master at Phoenix. I just don't know how long Penske can keep that up as far as being the dominant team in Phoenix. I got to believe Hendrick and Gibbs are going to figure this thing out. But, I mean, Ryan Blaney will obviously be very dangerous if he does make it again, which I was tempted to not put him here because I just think Penske's there. To me, they're definitely the number 3 behind Hendrick and Gibbs, but they tend to get hot at the right time. And Ryan Blaney is just, man, he's just such a good driver. He doesn't have quite the upside of a Kyle Larson, Christopher Bell, or Tyler Reddick, but man, he is just so solid, man. And he's more of a consistency guy, but he's capable of winning races too. I mean, he's won multiple races the past few years, so I think he'll make championship 4 again, but I don't think he'll quite win the title. So let's talk about our projected runner-up, Kyle Larson. Going to attempt to do the Indy double again. Only made 35 starts last year as a result of that. NASCAR, though, kind of putting their foot down this year as far as saying if you miss a race, you could potentially lose out on a lot of playoff points and stuff. So I would think Kyle Larson, if rain will become a factor again, he'll probably have to skip the greatest spectacle in racing, unfortunately, to make sure he makes Coke 600. But, NASCAR, I feel like, kind of has to do what they have to do, ensure that guys aren't going and racing in other series and whatnot. But anyway, I think he's definitely going to be a contender again. Didn't quite make championship 4 last year. I feel like his Achilles heel is trying to push it a little too hard. His next-gen car tends to reward drivers more. It seems like guys like Blaney and stuff that don't seem to push it quite as hard. They're a little smarter with their equipment. Larson definitely has more upside. I mean, there's no other driver in the sport with the amount of upside of Kyle Larson. I mean, this dude won 6 times last year. He'll probably lead the series and wins again, if I had to guess. I mean, raw speed. He has the most raw speed out of anybody, but it's not sure if he'll quite get it done at Phoenix. He'll be close, but this is who I have getting it done at Phoenix, y'all. Christopher Bell. I think Bell is going to be out on a revenge tour, baby, after the way last season ended for him last year. And he's consistent, man. He had the most top 10s in the sport. I think he's got the perfect blend of speed and consistency. And he's good at the shorter tracks like Phoenix. So I think this year is going to be the perfect storm for him. He had made the championship 4 the past years prior to last year. Had it last year until NASCAR ruled that he made an illegal move, which when I saw what he did, I was like, I don't think that's going to fly, because they're like, he's in. But I was like, I don't know. That looked an awful lot like what Chastain did there at Martinsville. And sure enough, they ruled against him and he missed it and he was not happy. But I think he's going to be very motivated this year to prove that he's a champion. I think he's going to put his name on that championship trophy this year. He's probably the best driver in the series that not have a championship. Probably could debate whether that's him, William Byron, or Tyler Reddick, but I think I'd lean Christopher Bell. I mean, he's got the equipment, he's got the talent. I mean, everything's lining up for him to, if not win the championship, at least make it back to the championship 4. But I think he's going to get it done this year and be your Cup Series champion. So yeah, that's going to do it here, y'all. Appreciate everyone that tuned in. We'll have more content throughout the season. So, yeah, until then, we'll be back. Sorry if I was a little sniffly there. I've been battling a little illness, but, hopefully we'll be rock and rolling throughout the year. So, yeah, Spencer Talk NASCAR. Appreciate it, y'all. Catch y'all on the next one.